get through this.
Greetings and salutations, guys. Eric here with my review of Borderlands, the long in the works and then long delayed feature film adaptation of the games of the same name. If you know anything about what went on behind the scenes of this movie, you know it has been troubled. This movie wrapped production in June of 2021. Some perspective there. Cate Blanchett, who stars in this movie, had not yet shot Tar. She would do that right after. Jamie Lee Curtis is in this movie. She had not yet shot Halloween Ends. And Ariana Greenblatt was only 13 when she made this movie. And since then, she made Barbie and Ahsoka and is discernibly older because she is a child who is aging. And you can tell that she made this when she was a younger person. And then the director, Eli Roth, went and made Thanksgiving after principal production on this movie. And Tim Miller, the director of Deadpool, came in and shot 2 weeks of reshoots on Borderlands because Eli Roth was off making Thanksgiving. So, not an ideal scenario going in as far as the best optics, as far as the movie being delayed over and over, a lot of bad buzz around it. But that doesn't mean the movie's going to be bad when it finishes. Plenty of movies have overcome bad buzz and troubled productions and extensive reshoots, and even other directors finishing movies, but not this one. Yeah, this is not a good film. I should say, I've never played these games. I knew almost nothing going in except that there's guys in orange outfits with like gas masks on. Nothing about the story really, except what I've seen from some visuals. So I had no perspective on that. I wasn't comparing it to the game, and I certainly can't give you the one-to-one. And if they made a good adaptation here, I can just say as a movie, this thing just doesn't work. It's just one of those movies where nothing is clicking together. You just kind of feel scenes sitting there. It's obviously trying to be heightened and bombastic and funny, and it's not really achieving any of that. Cate Blanchett stars here as Lilith. She is a bounty hunter, intergalactic bounty hunter, who was sent on a mission to the planet Pandora. Yes, this is how I found out that Pandora is a planet in Borderlands besides Avatar, and that they both came out in 2009. Now I know that. She's sent to Pandora in theory to rescue Tina, this young girl played by Ariana Greenblatt, but really what they end up doing is trying to find this vault, this legendary vault. And the way in, they need to find the keys to get into this vault, which is supposed to have something very important inside that is basically the secrets of the universe. And she meets up with a few other characters, and they are a ragtag team and a reluctant team of allies who must find their way in, fighting against the evil Atlas. Yeah, this movie just, there is such a lack of energy to it. And it's, you know, when you watch the trailer, it was hard not to think, is this trying to be like Guardians of the Galaxy? There definitely is some of that in the movie. There definitely has this feeling like the studio wanted this to feel like Guardians. There's not a lot of needle drops, but there's definitely a couple that kind of come in. In a way, it's almost weirder that it only happens a couple times, by the way. Because this is the far future, and then suddenly we have a couple of contemporary songs. But it really shows you how hard it is to do what James Gunn does with Guardians of the Galaxy and be sort of witty and fast-paced and have a really goofy tone, but actually feel like there's genuine stakes here. Because in this film, you know, first and foremost, it's not funny. I'll get to one little exception in a moment. Most of the jokes just don't land. And then the action's not exciting. And then a thing, you know, Guardian's sort of secret sauce is that it's very emotional when it wants to be. Clearly, there is a lot of sort of love and depth for the characters, and they can make a turn on the dime from funny to something really, you know, brings you in and emotive, and that just doesn't happen here. When the characters get their big, most of the characters get one moment, one scene to be like, oh, this is my serious scene, and it just doesn't play. It doesn't feel genuine at all. This is a very talented cast. I mean, I don't have to tell you that Cate Blanchett is a talented actress, and yet almost none of them are giving very good performances, including Cate Blanchett. There's a lot of posturing, a lot of posing. She's doing this tough lady voice. We've seen that Cate Blanchett can do incredibly varied roles, and we saw her do a really fun comic book role in Thor Ragnarok, but this just doesn't play. And Eli Roth as a director, I've definitely been hot and cold on him, but I've liked several of his movies, and also I think that some of his movies can be very funny and witty, yet this one, it just, you know, there's these times where nothing is clicking, nothing's coming together, and this is one of them. I did say there was an exception. I will say Jack Black voicing the robot Claptrap Is material, is it all funny? No. But some of it's pretty amusing. And when I saw this movie, the first show in IMAX, at Universal City Walk here, there was a few jokes that Jack Black had as claptrap that were the only times the audience responded. The audience was engaged. There was a couple funny moments with that character. Jamie Lee Curtis, this is a nothing role, kind of giving a lot of expository, just nonsense. She comes in and is supposed to give you a lot of backstory, a lot of things. I did look up some of the facts about the game afterwards and saw how things matched or didn't match, but it was funny how this is one of those movies where they'll say something and it's almost treated like a throwaway, and then at the end they'll proclaim, oh, that's because of the thing we mentioned earlier. And I'm like, you didn't take enough time. You didn't spend any time on actually establishing that. You said the word, but that's it. Interestingly, in a movie with Academy Award winners Cate Blanchett and Jamie Lee Curtis, the person who comes off the best here is Kevin Hart. He plays Roland, a soldier that ends up helping Lilith along the way, and he is interestingly cast as the straight man in this case. He, really is just sort of reacting to the goofy things happening around him. But in a movie that is very sort of grating and shrill, Kevin Hart gets to be the one underplaying, and he does a good job in a couple of the smaller dramatic moments. He is an exception to the rule here as far as selling a little bit, and maybe that's because his character never goes too big, never goes too goofy and wacky in a way that you're not even relating to him as a real person. So I actually thought he was one of the better parts of the film. And the action is pretty ho-hum. The production design is good enough. Almost all comes from the games, sort of the design of this world. But nothing really interesting happens within it. There are movies that obviously can be entertaining in their badness, right? This is not one of them. This is one of them that's it is a struggle to get through because you just don't feel engaged. You can be engaged in a movie if it's goofy and maybe the dialogue is not so great, but there's still something about it that's very watchable. And Borderlands is really not, it's when it ended, it was one of those things where it's like, you just kind of feel like the energy had left that theater long ago. Because when the movie started, I was like, this isn't that bad. And then it continues, and the more characters they add and the less they kind of really do anything to draw you in and make you connect to those characters, the more I felt myself checking out. This movie is written and directed by Eli Roth, so ultimately, it does feel like this was him just not meshing with this material. And look, his most recent movie was Thanksgiving, and I really enjoyed Thanksgiving. I thought, that was a very fun, good, engaging movie. Now you could say, well, it's him in his familiar wheelhouse. He's back in the horror realm after he's tried to branch out a couple times, including with Borderlands. But I don't think every time he's tried to branch out, it hasn't worked. I thought that The House with a Clock in Its Walls, that was a fun movie. And, that was him doing a family film that some people thought, what the hell is he doing? And he made that work. But something about Borderlands, it did not click together. There's going to be speculation and talk about this movie, I think, for a long time, because Craig Mazin, the writer behind Chernobyl and The Last of Us, had written the earlier scripts for this movie. And when Eli Roth signed on, it was supposed to be a Craig Mazin script, and people said that script was great. His name's not even on the final movie. There's a lot of speculation about why that is, that maybe he asked to have it removed. He doesn't even have a story by credit, so it does seem a little interesting. Whatever the case, I would have been curious to see that script, and maybe even Roth directing it. Maybe it would have worked better, but maybe not. Maybe this material was just never the right material for Roth, and his approach to it, and just his sensibility doesn't work with it. There is a callback near the end of this movie, a self-reference to Hostel Part 2 happens, a visual reference, and all I thought about was Hostel Part 2 was way more entertaining, much better movie than what I just watched. Sometimes they don't work out, and sometimes the example of that is Borderlands. So those are my thoughts on Borderlands. If you can like and subscribe, that would be great. I'll be back with more here. Thanks, guys. Take care.